Ahead on the CFL Report, the Blue Bombers win the '88 Grey Cup. The Toronto Argonauts have a brand new owner. And a final word from Leaf and Marty. The CFL Report, brought to you by Foster's Lager, the Golden Throat Chama.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Wells. Welcome to the CFL Report, our final edition for the 1988 season. The year ended on a high note with the Grey Cup, game 85, and we couldn't have asked for anything more, Leaf, than the way it finished for a Blue Bomber victory over BC.
John, I thought it was just a tremendous day and a tremendous week in Ottawa. I know you and I really enjoyed ourselves down there, and my compliments to the entire city of Ottawa and Mayor Jim Doro. That just a wonderful job that they did to keep everybody happy down there, and it climaxed with an outstanding Grey Cup again.
A perfect day for Grey Cup 88s, the BC Lions and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
More than 50,000 fans packed and expanded Lansdowne Park on Grey Cup Day, and Mother Nature cooperated as well by providing a windy but very mild afternoon for late November. Now the Lions spotted the Bombers an early 1-0 lead before storming back midway through the first quarter. Tony Cherry sweeps around the left side, finds the end zone for a 14-yard touchdown, and BC held a 7-1 lead. But Winnipeg came back with a march of their own, and it was right into the teeth of the wind. The big play, this Sean Salisbury to James Murphy pass and run that covers 71 yards and puts Winnipeg into scoring position. The Blue Bombers had to settle for a 22-yard Trevor Kennard field goal, and BC's lead was cut to 7-4. Another Kennard field goal tied the game, but the Lions answered with a long drive of their own into the wind as well. David Williams found the seam, hauls in a 26-yard touchdown pass from Matt Dunnigan to give the Lions a 14-7 lead. But the Blue Bombers bounced back to tie the game on their very next possession. Salisbury finds Murphy cutting across the middle, and the veteran receiver takes it from there. The 35-yard major ties the game at 14 apiece. Louis Passaglia had a chance to put the Lions ahead by 3 late in the first half, but his 41-yard field goal sails wide, and BC had to settle for the single point and a 15-14 halftime lead. The Blue Bombers opened the second half with a pair of costly penalties, and that allowed the Lions to move all the way to the 13-yard line. But once again, the drive stalled, and this time, Passaglia hit on a 28-yarder to give British Columbia an 18-14 lead. The biggest play of the game came only minutes later. The Lions faced a 3rd and 1 at their own 20-yard line. But instead of punting with the wind, Larry Donovan elected to gamble. But the Winnipeg defense stuffed Dunnigan on the quarterback sneak, and the Blue Bombers took over from there. Winnipeg failed to find the end zone, but Kennard's 3rd field goal of the game cut BC's lead to 1 again. It was 18-17, Lions leading. The Winnipeg defense came up with another big play minutes later. Willie Fears blocks a Passaglia field goal attempt, and the Bombers had good field position once again. The Lions took over one more time, but the Winnipeg defense rose to the challenge again, as they had all afternoon. This time, Rod Hill intercepts a Dunnigan pass, returns it to the Lions' 26. The Bombers call on Kennard again, but this time his 32-yard field goal was wide, and the single point tied the game at 18-18. The teams went to the fourth quarter even at 19 apiece, but the Bombers had the strong wind now at their backs. With under 4 minutes to play, a short Passaglia punt and no yards penalty put Winnipeg on the Lions' 27-yard line. But Winnipeg failed to move the ball once again, and Kennard's 4th field goal of the game gave the Bombers the lead for the first time since early in the first quarter. But the Lions, they weren't dead yet. Tony Cherry found a small opening, showed some great open field running. 52 yards later, BC in position to take the lead, or at least tie it with a field goal. But the Bomber defense rose to the challenge one more time. Dunnigan's pass into the end zone, tipped by Benny Thompson, and Mike Gray comes up with the biggest interception of his CFL career. The Blue Bombers gave up a late safety, but held on for the win. The final score in Grey Cup 88, Winnipeg 22, BC 21.
Who got the cup? We got the cup. Who got the cup? We got the cup. Who got the cup? We got the cup. Who got the cup? We got the cup.
This is the best time I've ever had athletically speaking. I've played athletics as I can remember. And I've never been on a championship team, and this is the best I've ever had. I thought last week that I played my best game of my career, but really, that probably was the biggest play of my whole career.
And I wouldn't have traded this day in sports for any day I've had, or probably, well, I hope that I have another chance like this. But to date, I've been, I'm 25 years old, and I've never had a day in sports like this, never.
To get a fluke play like that on the goal line and them get an interception and stop us from scoring, it just makes you feel like, you get to the top of the mountain and slip.
In the third quarter, we did something kind of stupid. It's 3rd and 2, and we run a quarterback sneak. I mean, I don't know what sense that made, but we did it, and they got 3 points out of it, and we lost by 1, so look at it like that.
A great finish. The only thing that might have been missing on Grey Cup Sunday was overtime, and we came oh so close to seeing that. I guess looking back on the afternoon, one still has to wonder about a couple of calls by Larry Donovan.
Well, John, I really think that in Larry's first big game, and of course it was Mike Riley's too, but I think Larry made a couple of questionable calls. The third down gamble should have never happened. And of course, late in the game, people say, well, Donegan shouldn't have thrown the ball. I say throw it. Why not? I mean, he could have won it right there. No overtime, didn't have to worry about anything. Tip ball, what can happen? Yeah,
but on the other side, he didn't win it, interception, and it was there. It was set for overtime, and we might have seen a little more football.
Well, we could have, but, I don't fault Matt Donegan one bit. My compliments to Mike Riley. What a great job he did as a coach. Their defense played outstanding, and James Murphy, the outstanding player of the game. Now, if I were to start a team tomorrow and they said you can have any wide receiver in the league, David Williams is good and Sandusky and some others, but there's no doubt in my mind James Murphy would be the first guy I would pick. I've always said that.
Williams caught a lot more passes, a lot more for touchdowns this year, but I guess when you look back on the season, James Murphy had some inconsistencies at quarterback to work with, and his numbers were down a little bit, but he was up when it counted.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. He worked with so many quarterbacks this year, DeWalt, Mickey, and Sean Salisbury, that it's tough for him, but he showed in the end that he's a tremendous receiver, and he was definitely the star of the game.
Looking back 3 weeks to the playoffs in Winnipeg, only 12,000 Blue Bomber fans showed up for the Eastern semifinal against Hamilton, but everyone was right back on the bandwagon when the Bombers arrived home with the Grey Cup.
As expected, the Blue Bombers returned to Winnipeg to a hero's welcome Monday. Almost 2,000 fans packed the Winnipeg airport for a glimpse of the 1988 Grey Cup champions. The police did the best they could to restrain the crowd, but no one seemed to mind the mad crush, especially the Grey Cup champion players.
This is definitely the kind of crowd we expected because, one thing about it, when you're a winner, everybody wants to come out and be a part of it, and it's nothing like that.
Just really a good feeling to come back and see the crowd behind us, and we got a good crowd support, and I'm just really happy for the province of Manitoba and for our football team for being able to overcome so many obstacles this year.
I've always known Winnipeg has some very good fans, and even in Ottawa, I'll tell you, the crowd there, I think the majority of it was Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans, and it was great to have that support.
On Tuesday, the city honored the Bombers with a civic parade down Portage Avenue. More than 30,000 fans lined the route to celebrate the Grey Cup win once again. And despite the cold, -10 Celsius temperatures and snow, thousands more gathered at City Hall for one last hurrah.
I want to say that our football team is a very special group of guys. They never quit playing. They kept working hard, and when you keep working hard, good things will happen.
And from that victory party in Winnipeg, one more look back to Grey Cup Sunday as we salute our Foster's star of the Grey Cup game.
BC running back Tony Cherry earns an honorable mention as the Foster star. Cherry led the Lions offense again with 133 yards rushing and a touchdown. And his exciting 52-yard run late in the fourth quarter gave the Lions a chance for the win. But the Fosters, star of the Grey Cup, goes to James Murphy of the Blue Bombers. In the first half alone, Murphy hauled in 5 passes for 165 yards and a touchdown to keep the Bombers close. And even though he was shut out in the second half, Murphy's performance was still good enough to earn him the Foster star of the game. The award for top Canadian performance of the Grey Cup goes to Winnipeg punter Bob Cameron. Cameron averaged 47.3 yards a punt for the afternoon, but more importantly, he managed 41 yards per kick on his 7 efforts into that very strong wind. And those big punts into the wind moved the Blue Bombers out of trouble and gave Bob Cameron the Canadian star of the Grey Cup.
A great game in Ottawa, a great Grey Cup week. Unfortunately, the euphoria the CFL enjoyed on Sunday did not last all that long. We'll get back to some tumultuous problems in the Canadian Football League as we continue on the CFL Report right after this. Back to the CFL Report, our final edition for 1988 as we look back on the Grey Cup and other happenings shortly after the Grey Cup. Less than 24 hours after the Blue Bombers tasted champagne from the old trophy, the Toronto Argonauts had found a new owner.
Carling O'Keefe made it official Monday, announcing that it sold the Toronto Argonauts for a little more than $5 million to Edmonton-born entrepreneur Harry Ornest, the same Harry Ornest who owned the St. Louis Blues until 1986. Carling O'Keefe owned the Argos outright since 1978, making money the first 7 years, but losing close to $6 million the last 3. Carling retains 5% of the club and exclusive marketing rights. Carling President of Business Operations John Barnett says it wasn't the red ink that prompted the sale. The reasoning was strictly philosophical.
The fact of the matter is, over the next 20 years, we'll pay considerably more in marketing rights to both the Quebec Nordiques and the Toronto Argonauts than we sold those teams for. It's just, I say, a philosophical belief that we're not in the business of owning and managing sports teams. We're in the business of making and selling beer.
Ornest is no stranger to the CFL. He was a director of the BC Lions in the late 50s and a governor of the defunct Montreal Alouettes in 1982. He says he's not worried about the Argos' lack of fan support or the CFL's seemingly less than rosy future.
The Canadian Football League is on the upswing, that the future is brighter than it's been in a long time, and I'm very confident and bullish about the league, and I'm especially confident about Argos going into a new dome in a great city with a record that in the last few years under Ralph's aegis has been the best in the Canadian Football League.
Argo President Ralph Sazio also had an announcement.
Bob Obilovich will be the general manager and coach of the Toronto Argonaut Football Club for 1989.
That move leaves Leo Cahill out in the cold. Cahill has been with the Argos off and on for over 20 years, but his contract has not been renewed.
All the jobs that I should have had, the marketing, the promotion, the development of the club and stuff like that were taken out of my hands, and Sazio did it, and we can see what happened there. I mean, you can see by the empty seats what happened there. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't care if I work another day or do another thing. I just want to reveal to everybody in Toronto, because I feel very close to this situation and I feel very close to the Argonauts, just exactly what happened and how it happened and why it happened. And I think it was a preordained plan by this man to, first of all, make me suffer all kind of indignities throughout 3 years, and then finally take me right down to the last couple weeks before my contract ran out and pull the rug out from under me. And I'm not too sure that I'm going to forgive Carling O'Keefe for allowing him to do this to me in the last couple of months without at least telling me what their plans were for me in the future.
We have to feel a little bit sorry for Leo Cahill, who loses out with the Argonauts for the 3rd time. I think on the previous 2 occasions, Leo could accept some of the blame, and I don't know on this occasion if he really should be blamed for what happened to the Toronto Argonauts. I think he got caught in the Ralph Sazio-Leo Cahill conflict, and Leo might be a little more blameless this time around.
Well, the last couple of times he was fired, John, he was a head coach, and he had control over his own destiny. In this case, and I have great sympathy for Leo Cahill, because I understand Carling O'Keefe asked Ralph Sazio to bring Leo Cahill on board to add to the marketing scheme. But once Leo got there, his hands were completely tied. He couldn't really help run the football team with Bob Obilovich as head coach. And, of course, Ralph Sazio is a dictator in that organization, and he does it all himself. So Leo was caught in the middle and never really was allowed to perform his expertise that we all know that he has in marketing and so forth. So Leo was caught between a rock and a hard place, and now, it seems fitting that they were brutal to him the whole time he was there. So why not fire him this way, too?
Let's talk about the new owners. What can Harry Ornest do for the Toronto Argonaut football franchise and, in fact, for the Canadian Football League, because it is hanging in the balance of the Argonaut move right now, I think.
Well, it's a great deal for Harry Ornest. You know, he comes in when the Argonauts are at the bottom, you know, financially and interest-wise. So, I mean, Harry has no place to go but up, and he's getting a good start next year by moving into the Sky Dome in Toronto. And, of course, along with that goes the professional rights to a football team in that Sky Dome for the next 5 years. So if the CFL were to fold, Harry Ornest has 18 months with which to entice an NFL franchise into Canada. So Harry Ornest is sitting in a pretty good position right now, because he has the Argonauts going to the Sky Dome, which will undoubtedly draw more fans next year, and with the possibility of NFL if we're to believe that down the road.
And also complicating the problems in the situation is Harold Ballard's move to take the Tiger Cats lock, stock, and barrel out of Iverwin Stadium and load all the belongings into a truck which sits somewhere in southern Ontario. We're not sure exactly what Harold is going to do, but if you were a betting man, what is he going to do? Is he bluffing right now?
Well, he bluffed once in the past, and, you know, I don't blame Harold Ballard. I mean, I think he's taken enough crap from the city of Hamilton. They always juicing him about the rent. He should have that place rent-free. I mean, here's a guy that's lost $12 million since he bought the team in 1978. Give the guy a break, city of Hamilton. Get off your duffs and do something for him.
It seems that the city of Hamilton and everyone involved in the Canadian Football League has known for some time that Harold Ballard, A, isn't going to be around for a long, long time, and B, is going to be unable to lose the kind of money he has and put that across at the shareholders meetings of Maple Leaf Gardens. So somebody should have been looking for a new owner at some point, no?
Well, whether it be the league or the city of Hamilton to look for a new owner, I mean, there's some guys with some heavy money over in Hamilton. You look at Stelco and Michael DeGroot with Laidlaw. I mean, there's a number of guys that could, but I guess nobody wants to get into that situation, and Harold Ballard's finally said, hey, enough is enough. I mean, I'm not a dumbbell.
Enough of the negative. We'll be back to look at some of the more memorable moments of the CFL in 1988. And Marty Adler is still coming up on the show later as well. Welcome back to the CFL Report, our final edition for 1988. Before we look back at some magic moments, let's give a thought or two to what might happen in 1989 and key that to the Matt Dunnigan trade from the Eskimos to the BC Lions. The Eskimos are sitting waiting and licking their lips for some players in exchange for Matt Dunnigan.
Yeah, this has just been really brought to light in the last few weeks, John. What will happen is the BC Lions are allowed to protect only 2 players on their roster, excluding Matt Dunnigan. The Edmonton Eskimos can then pick 1 player. After that, then BC protects 1 more player on their roster, and Edmonton gets to pick anybody again. So they get 2 more players.
So who would you think that the Eskimos should be looking at? I mean, there are outstanding players on the roster, like running back Tony Cherry, like wide receiver David Williams, but there is some Canadian content there that might be more advantageous for Edmonton.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, John. I think the key is, you know, you're only as good as your Canadian, so don't be surprised. BC knows that. They'll probably protect a guy like Scott Leckie or offensive lineman Jim Mills, Larry Clarkson. Those would be the guys that I would think Edmonton would be seriously looking at, not the imports, the Canadians.
That story coming out in later weeks. Right now, let's look back to some of the more memorable moments of Canadian football in 1988.
Hey, hi, everybody. So good in the first 2 games of the season. We are the elite.
So in the final analysis, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers proved to be the best team through the 1988 CFL season. Not many people would have thought that 6 weeks ago. Coming up in just a moment, the final word will go to Marty Adler. We had to give him a chance. We'll be right back. Over the playoffs in the regular season in 1988, we had a lot of fun with Marty Adler picking the winners each week and Leif Pettersson arguing those much of the time. I don't know who won the battle, Leif. Is there any final calculation?
No final calculations other than the fact that Marty wanted it that way because he had a pretty bad year. But I know he's going to have something in his final say for you and I, John.
We'll give him the final word. Marty?
Well, this is my last appearance on TSN for this year, and I want you to know I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm going to tell you guys what I think of you guys before I present my Marty Awards. First of all, I checked out this Leif Pettersson fella. How good was Leif when he was a player? Well, I understand around the CFL, they mention the name Leif Pettersson in the same breath as David Williams, the guy that was the top player in the CFL in 1988. You know what they say? Yep, that Leif Pettersson, he's no David Williams. And then I want you to know what else I heard. I heard that Leif Pettersson, when he was a player, actually went out on the field with no clothes on. You see, the coach told him it was an exhibition game. And one more thing about Leif, around TSN they call him the Albert Einstein of TSN. That's because nobody understands him. Time now for the Marty Awards, and the award for Mr. Fairness goes to none other than John Wells. And there's my Mr. Fairness Award, because he never took sides when it came to me and Leif. So congratulations, John. And the Mr. Bright Guy Award, that goes to Leif Pettersson, a shining star at TSN, and nobody can hold a candle to him. See you next year, guys.
Thank you, Marty. It's nice to receive an award after a long football season, isn't it?
Oh, it's fabulous. I mean, he is bitter, isn't he? I mean, he's bitter towards me. But you know what, Marty, we have had a great deal of fun with you this year, and I think the work that you've done on our show has just been tremendous.
All right, thanks to everyone, to Leif Pettersson, to Marty Adler, to Gord Cutler, and all the people who made our CFL Report in 1988 so much fun to work on. Thanks to the Canadian Football League for finishing off with a bang, because Grey Cup 88 was certainly a high note. Let's hope that the off-season goes half as well. See you next year.
The CFL Report, brought to you by Foster's Lager, the Golden Throat Chama.